Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, I'll tell you, I am excited because I'm finally sitting down across the table with what I consider the trifecta of organizations here in Annapolis. We've spoken with STAIR.
Yeah.
We've spoken with Charting Careers.
Yeah.
And now we're here with Jen Paastrone, who is with the Seeds for Success.
Yeah.
And people asked him about the different organizations.
Yep.
And I said, think of the three of them as like one of those Venn diagrams that you hated probably in school.
Yeah.
And right in the middle where they all intersect is empowering our youth right in the center.
I would agree. Yeah. And they are great friends and great partners and great fellow EDs to work with.
It's neat when you see similar organizations working together.
Yeah.
And, you see that in the media. I mean, TV can work with print, online and everything else. That's wonderful. But the most important thing I want to lead off with is Seeds, the number 4, success.org.
Yeah.
And that's a website that everybody should go to and check out this program. But we're going to talk with Jen, who is the executive director, and find out a lot more about Seeds for Success. So,
wonderful.
thank you so much for inviting me into your office.
Happy Friday. Thank you for having me.
That's right. It is Friday.
It is Friday. I know.
Where did Seeds for Success start?
Sure. So in 2008, there was a spike in violence and community violence here in Eastport.
Right. That was Stop the Gunfire.
Yeah. And there was a group of women who were really passionate about that happening in their community, and were attending meetings. And this is where Pastor Menendez comes in, where she tasked a group of women to say, okay, you might be feeling some way about this, but I charge you to adopt a neighborhood or adopt a cause to support growth in this area and impact the community. And so our founders then started the Eastport Girls Club to provide after-school activities, enrichment, homework help for girls in Eastport Terrace and Harbor House in 2008. And so then over a series of events and growth in the community, they incorporated in 2011. So we have a bit of 2 anniversaries. This year we're celebrating 15 years of being founded, while also being incorporated in 2011. So we have some deep relationships right here in Eastport.
We've got some deep roots, that's for sure.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so you said this was founded as the Eastport Girls Club.
Yes, it was.
Are we still segregated?
We are not.
As far as
No, I'm glad you asked that question. So I came in July 2021, and while there was Eastport Girls Club, there was I Am a Reader for boys that also was sometimes called Eastport Boys Club.
Okay.
And then there was an academic career and exploration club for older youth. And I thought, having my brain been in a wide variety of grade levels and understanding the climate and gender identities, it was time to shift our program titles and then really localize grade bands for programs versus all grades come on a same evening. So now our programs are the values in our logo: learn, dream, grow, and share.
Okay. So explain a little bit about the program. I mean, this was started as a reading club.
Yes, it was.
And you seem to have grown well beyond that.
Yes. So
obviously reading is
a part of it.
For success.
Absolutely, right? And so we know reading is access to everything. How you might read looks different. And I think sometimes that's something we need to grapple with, is how are adults even reading today? Are they actually reading? Are they listening? What are they reading? Full novels? Are they reading blogs? But yes, reading is a core tenet of our programs. So we took on early childhood this year and last year, and we welcomed pre-K and kindergarten and first grade for the first time into our organization to directly impact that reading piece. And I know equally STAIR and Charting Careers are also focusing on reading too. So we're all trying to make sure our kids around the community are supported in reading. And in addition to that, we also embed math in our Learn program, pre-K through 5, kids equally share time in social emotional, math, and reading. And then as you get into middle school, we then embed more life skills, social emotional learning. And then in high school, it's more assignment-based, what some content you might need, specific subject areas. But we are really starting to focus on career pathways for our kids.
So you guys are really taking somebody from pre-K all the way up through high school and I guess high school. Beyond.
Yes, we are. And then we hire them back.
Well, I mean, where do you do your work? Okay, well, you have a physical location right here in the Eastport Shopping Center.
Yes.
I mean, is this where all the magic happens here, or do you go into the schools, the homes?
Yes. Great. So we do partner with families. On occasion, we go to their homes. Often they come to our office for meetings, or we meet somewhere else. Our Learn program occurs at the Eastport Elementary School on Wednesday evenings for 2 hours. And then our Dream Middle School program also is with an equally wonderful partner, the public library. So we're at Eastport Annapolis Neck Library. We've been there since we reopened from COVID. And then our high school does meet right here. So I believe in unique spaces for our high schoolers that they can call their own. So they come in, we've got a couch, we've got alternate seating. They can choose if the lights are on or off, and they eat snacks here, and it becomes a second home to them. So our high school program happens right here on Thursdays.
So it's a clubhouse.
It kind of is, right? And we know that high schoolers, they develop relationships differently. They care about their space and where they are. And so our little ones are happy to be in school, happy to extend that day. Our high schoolers would probably also equally be happy to extend in high school, but if we can also give them a different place to let their hair down and be themselves too, we're happy to do that.
Well, you just think about what a elementary school versus a high schooler is. Okay, the elementary school is just thrilled to please whoever they can possibly please. True.
Yes.
The high schooler is like, I don't want to hang out with these stupid adults. Right. You know, I got to put on the cool mask, you know.
Yep. Yeah,
I swagger in here and I flop, but you know they're getting out of it, and they're here to learn.
Well, and what I find about our high schoolers just last night, so we also partner with another organization that's LifeRamp. It's an Annapolis-based technology company. We're partnering with them for the first time, and they provide international coaches on a platform, on an app. And so we're launching that. And what's exciting about that is it's career coaching, it's life coaching, it's college and career preparation on their phones. And it allows us to hold on to our kids who might move, which we, unfortunately, because there's capacity, right, to reach Glen Burnie. When a child moves from us and they are in high school at that age, we are still able to hold on to them and through their post-high school program. So we just launched that last night. Why I'm saying that is I love high schoolers because they can have a variety of personalities in a room, and yet they're all so open. And they are listening. And so last night, it is nearly 6 o'clock at night, maybe even 6:30. And they've listened to their second section. They've gone through financial literacy, and now they've been opened up to LifeRamp, and they're tired, right? Because their high schoolers are probably up. And then you ask them what their biggest takeaway is, and you think, well, I'm not sure what they got from this. And they lay it out better than you could have. And their mind is so open. Like, this might be for me. They're critical thinkers or critical consumers of what's right for them. And so they're like, I would like to experiment with this more, but it might be a good fit for me. So I appreciate that about our high schoolers.
Well, they've got the ability to open up and to be accepting of it.
Yeah.
And see, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
How does a student become involved or enrolled in the program here? Is that generated through the schools, or can somebody walk in the front door and say, hey,
it's been a combination of all of those things, right? So we're lucky to be right here in Eastport. Some kids walk up to our door and they're friends with another child and say, hey, my friend isn't here. How do I? And I give them information to take home themselves, which is awesome that kids show up. I mean, I'm talking upper elementary, 4th and 5th graders showing up at our door. We have siblings. So we've had families. We have children of participants in our program as well. So we've got a couple of generations. We have the school system referring, and then we have also had the library refer children to us as well who need resources.
You know, every time I go to talk to one of these podcasts, and usually it's with a nonprofit or an organization, the library does come up. And I'll tell you, our libraries kick ass.
They really do. We, because of Eastport Annapolis Next, so every year we have an annual fundraiser called Cocktails for a Cause. And we've been giving away the Helping Hand Award. This year was Luna Blue. They've been a great partner of ours. But I was so compelled by the library that we actually created an additional award and made them the inaugural recipient of it, called the Caring Community Award, because they care so much about the wellness of all the residents of this area and have been such a great partner that they even lead sessions for our middle schoolers. So they're in our rotation when we do evening sessions, that they open them up to resources and have them practice with them. So we've been very lucky to have them.
They're amazing.
They are
in any number of different ways there. Well, you've talked about your staff. I mean,
Yes.
How does an adult get?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm presuming you use volunteers.
We sure do. Yeah.
And you've got a staff, obviously, that needs to keep the lights on and keep the things moving and everything else. I mean, tell me about your staffing and stuff like that.
Great. So we have 4 full-time staff, myself included. One of our alumni just joined as a part-time staff.
That's exciting.
Full-time. It's very exciting. Taja, you'll see her on our brochures and things. She is really interested in education, wants to be a guidance counselor at some point, had interned for us, but has jumped right into programs and supporting coordination, activities. And she's from our community, right? She's a woman of color who graduated from UMES, who's walked the paths of many of our kids. So it's really important that she's in our organization. I have another alumni, or again, if they're an alumni, who hopes to work for us in the future, who is a business major at AACC. And then our staff includes program staff. So we are hiring right now a volunteer program specialist that will run our 2 volunteer programs. So that's one thing that gets left off the narrative sometimes is we have our mentoring program, but we also have a AmeriCorps foster grandparent program, which allows us to have almost a 3-generation approach because we work with families. We have quote unquote grandparents who are 55 and older. That's why I say quote unquote, because they may or may not be actual grandparents.
Sure.
And they are income eligible. So they usually reside in low income households and they go into schools or come to our after school programs. And that's managed by the volunteer program specialist. And then we have another program coordinator who is Milagros, and she came to us as a bilingual Spanish-speaking volunteer and worked herself into a job. And now she's the key communicator with our families who speak Spanish. And because of a lot of her work, we are able to engage and have really meaningful conversations about our children because of her connection to our families.
That's cool. Now, have you found that in your time here, you said you came here in 21,
yes.
So you haven't been here a huge amount of time.
No, I haven't, yeah.
The Hispanic population, I mean, I know that in Anne Arundel County and certainly in Annapolis, I think it's
growing
in excess of 15% at this point.
Yeah, it's growing.
So you're finding that as well in Seeds for Success?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we're still trying to make sure that we are equitable in who we enroll, right? We want to make sure we serve both communities. Our communities literally live across the street from each other, right there on President Street, right? And so a connection to that, too, is we've included family impact team meetings where we are now asking our families to be a key stakeholder in our organization. So one thing we're looking forward to this year is having them help us unpack our end of the year survey data and help us plan for how we could be better. But what was unique about our first meeting is we have some fathers who are also, but for that evening, it was mothers who came, and we had Spanish speaking mothers who are Hispanic speaking to our Black or African American mothers through translation and laughing about the same situations, living across the street from each other, but had maybe never met. And at the end of the evening, one of the moms said, way to break down walls here. And they looked forward to it. And I think sometimes we think our parents, do they want to be involved? We don't think it, but people will say that to us. This was a Friday night at 6:00. We had 8 moms here.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And again, when you break down the walls, we really, if you peel back that onion a little bit, you realize that we have so much more in common.
Absolutely.
Than we do the differences.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you may be Black, I may be white, you may be Latino, I may be and male, female, it doesn't really matter. I mean, down in the end, we all have the same worries, the same skills, the same capabilities, the same opportunities. Well, maybe not necessarily the same opportunities, but you've got certainly the same ability to go wherever you want to go with the right, with the right tools and opportunities that are presented. And I mean, certainly Seeds for Success is presenting those opportunities.
And just to completely answer your question about staff, so there's 2 more staff members. We have a program specialist for our Learn program, which is pre-K through 5, and she's really digging into academic, and we do all research-based interventions for that and really making, if you were a volunteer, you asked how volunteers get involved, our Learn volunteers are equipped to be mini teachers, and it might feel like a lot, but we give them literally lesson plans to follow. So they come in and they follow those.
Who are your volunteers? And how do we, I mean, obviously I'm presuming that we can investigate that at seeds, the number 4success.org.
Yes.
But who's your ideal volunteer person to come in?
I don't know that there is an ideal. I think an ideal volunteer is a person who's willing to practice cultural humility with our kids and learn from them as much as they want to teach them, right? They have to be someone who's open-minded, excited to work with kids, passionate to work with kids, not having necessarily preconceived notions of what they can or can't do. But our volunteers come from a variety of communities. We grew our BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color volunteer population from 2% to 40%. So whether you're white, Hispanic, or Black or African American or Hispanic or Asian, we have a variety of genders and ages and backgrounds. We do have a lot of teachers who gravitate to us, and that's one thing I'm really proud of. Is in our elementary program, we do have a lot of former teachers who work with our other volunteers. It's a great cohort, and then we have people who are in completely different careers or have been. And they also are equally exposing our children to different career pathways or thinking that they may not be usually exposed to. So there is no ideal volunteer other than your openness.
I love the term cultural humility. I just wrote that down.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about Taija, and I mean, she's a success story that she's really come through the program, and she's like Eldon the painter and Murphy Brown. She's not leaving. She's coming back.
Yeah, she's coming back.
Which is wonderful. But how do you define success?
So that has been a great question we've been grappling with. And what I think success is for our kids is that when they are old enough to have a career, they are able to make choices about what their career is, and it's gainful employment so that they do not have to live in poverty. Our kids then in that would have opportunity. They would have the ability to navigate the world and go places that they may not have been before. And they make an income where they're not reliant on systems or low-income household situations, while they still may embrace it and be a part of that community, right? That's a choice of theirs, and we have some great families there. So, but that gainful employment and a meaningful career to me would be success. And I think we're starting to see that. We have another child that is going to Towson. She studied abroad to Spain, and she just got accepted into their nursing program. So she'll be extending her school to be in the nursing program. And so we see a lot of our kids who their eyes are starting to open. Last night, we had Truist Bank here doing a session on financial literacy. One of our kids who hadn't experienced that yet said, can they come back? And he's a freshman in high school.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How does one get the most benefit? What are the critical things that they need? I mean, okay, you need to teach your mentors.
Yeah.
You need to teach your volunteers and your staff and everything else what to provide.
Yeah.
We need to be culturally humility.
Practice
cultural humility.
Yes.
Cultural humbly. I don't know.
I don't know that version. You're right.
I gotta
something we'll have to. It's hard.
Those are the criteria for success for an adult to come in here and help these children.
Yeah.
What is the criteria for a child to come in here to be successful getting out of there?
I think showing up. Really. And we try to give every avenue for that while also understanding sometimes there's family constraints. But we coordinate transportation and give them every opportunity to come. And we know that relationships take time, right? So we don't necessarily expect them to trust us right away. Over time, if we have the right adults in front of them, they do trust us and they care about the relationships and they care about the work. And they start to inherently be more invested in it. And so a lot of what we do with them, though, is we have them on a weekly basis analyze what they think their success was towards the things they worked on that evening. So we can help them see that they are also finding success and they can repeat it, right? And so we just really want them to come. And while we understand also pollen and illnesses and family things that happen, but our kids do come. And that's why I believe we are holding on to them.
Now, do you focus strictly? I mean, I know we're right here in, seems like we're in a city with central downtown Eastport.
Right.
But I mean, you are within walking distance of two of our lower income communities, Harbor House and Eastport Terrace.
Yeah.
And so obviously mentees in those neighborhoods could walk here, but transportation is a huge issue.
Sure is.
We do have some lower income communities scattered throughout the city, and you did mention that you arrange transportation.
So there were a couple when I lowered to pre-K and first grade, we need to have safe transportation for children, right? We are lucky to have a passenger van, but we then don't have the approved seating for all the children in there. So that was a limiting factor. So then we actually expanded last school year by 63%. We increased our enrollment by 63%. And our 10-passenger van, we need it every single week, would not allow expansion. So we have taken on the financial burden of committing to chartered bus transportation for our kids. And with having, I also have another team member, Kayla, who is our senior program manager. With her and the other program staff, every week they are coordinating transportation, meaning they are reaching out to families, finding out who's coming and how, but we commit to bringing a bus as close to their house as we can, and have had a great partner in Chesapeake Charter who works with us in the evenings to bring kids in elementary school and middle school. High school, we use our van right now, but as that program grows, we're going to need the bus even more. So it's about $30,000 if you wouldn't guess, but
wow.
Yes.
That's sizable for a small but mighty organization.
It is. Yes, and we rely on grant funds. The county executive really helped us get that program starting. He used his American Rescue Plan money to give us a huge grant that helped gain that contract. So the county executive had direct impact in our ability to provide transportation, safe transportation. Because what also happens too is at times there's violence in our community and we have to shift drop-offs and pickups. And so our staff works to do that. If we hear that there's a shooting in the neighborhood, we will divert the bus someplace else and make sure the kids are safe.
Contact the parents to make sure that they know where to get the kids.
In 2 languages. So we do it in 2 languages every single time, so that everybody's aware of what's happening.
That's wild. What are your graduates saying? Okay, Taija is coming back, but the folks that have graduated out of here and I know that you're avoiding calling them alumni because they're always welcome to come back.
Always welcome.
But what are they saying? What did they get out of the program?
Yeah, so we just had one of our participants provide a letter of support, and forgive me, I should have printed it for this occasion, for our county executive grant. And her story is that she had a child pretty young, and that child is also in our program now. And she successfully has gotten her GED. She is attending AACC, and that's the person who also may want to come back and participate in a business with her business brain. The way she opened her letter of support was, what if you needed a second chance? And she described the time in her life where she needed somebody to be looking out for her. And that's when mentors came in who she had already had a relationship with, right? So that's the power of mentorship, is you never know, even in the days where you might describe a kid as quiet, you think they're quiet or they might not feel there's a connection. That consistent showing up for someone is huge. And so that's who she is. A village. We're a part of her village, right? But that was a person she came back to, and now her child's in our program. And she wants to be a part of the program. And not everybody does, not always being in your community is a place where you want to come back to. I did not go back to Long Island, New York. I'm here in Annapolis. But it's so powerful to me that that's who she thought we were, or she thinks we are. And that to me is the power of mentorship and consistency. While not all mentors can stay year after year, what you do when you show up for a child and become a part of their village, it's really meaningful to them.
I am a huge proponent on second chances.
Yeah.
And we've all done very stupid things.
All of us. Every single one of us,
and
right?
If it weren't for second chances, very few of us would be where we are.
Yeah.
And kids as well. And I think that's just amazing that you've got, the support from the community that is actually getting the benefit of this, as well as the, and I will say that the adults and the mentors and they're not getting a direct benefit.
Yep.
But you've got the support of them as well as, the government.
You mean our caregivers, right? So that's some other pieces that, you and I haven't gotten a chance to talk about yet, is because now we have such conversations with our families, we are actually learning what it is they want. And I appreciated one of our moms saying, I actually want to learn Spanish so that I can communicate with my neighbors. How can we do that? And then we also heard our families wanting to speak English. And so another wonderful organization you may want to talk to is the Anne Arundel Literacy Council and the work they're doing. And they provide tutoring for adults across a variety of English, GED, math, reading. And so we've partnered with them now to provide programming for our Spanish-speaking adults. They come here for a conversation club. We helped enroll them jointly. We have a Seed Santa every year, which is we've grown from serving 30 kids to like 150 with presents. I mean, it's an amazing event. And they came and enrolled families. And so we have a survey going out to our families. What sessions do they want? Back to our early learning. Yes, we enroll in pre-K, but we want them to be ready for kindergarten. And so that happens when they're born. And so we're committed to also providing educational workshops for our families. So over time, you can't serve a child without serving a family or helping provide access to opportunity for them. And so that's a pathway we are exploring more and more while still understanding the capacity for what we can do and who we need to partner with. And there's so many amazing partners in our community that do great things. And it's just helping them access those resources with a trusted handoff. And that's where our team comes in. They trust our team, and then our team recommends a resource, and we find success when that happens.
Well, that's a different village.
Yeah, it is.
It's a village all working together. Just out of curiosity, and I had talked through my involvement with Annapolis High and the ICST program, and I may get my numbers off, but I don't think they're too far off. But someone said that in the Latino population, that there was only like 30% the parents or caregivers of Latino students had ever been in the high school for anything, back to school night or, looking for a sport or anything like that. I asked why that was, and they said, well, there's one of three reasons. It's a language barrier. It is a concern about documentation, whether they may be documented or undocumented. And then there is the other one that they're just not welcome. And that really sort of broke my heart because, first of all, and they look at the schools as being like the government. Yeah. Look like I look on the IRS. It's the government.
Right.
It's the big bad boogeyman.
Yeah.
And that's really unfortunate because the folks that are worried about not being able to communicate, the schools have the resources to do that.
Yeah.
In a back to school night.
Yeah.
Nobody, yes, they are checking IDs to get you in the school. And that's a safety thing for the students. But I mean, they're not running it through some immigration database to do that. And certainly it is a very welcoming place. And do you find any resistance to jumping into your programs along with those lines?
No, but we've really worked one-on-one to develop relationships with our caregivers so they do trust us, right? And I think recently, our families had to fill out to engage in one of our programs, not our survey, but somebody else's about income. And they did get a little hesitant and worried. And we had to, they trusted us and understood that we were saying it was okay and it wouldn't impact. But that's the power of that connection. And we're able to, we communicate across a variety of phone. We have an easy text. We have conversations. They come into our building. But it's that relationships really matter. And that's where I think schools have so many families, right? Teachers are asked to make relationships with everyone, and they do such a great job. I worked in many schools, and I was a teacher, and teachers have my full respect, and so does ACPS because they're doing wonderful work. And it's also really hard to have that unique individual relationship with every single person. And we are lucky in that because we serve a child from pre-K through post-high school and career, we get to continue that relationship every year, right? And so that gains trust. I think, parents and caregivers open up to us more and more. We still don't know all the barriers they have. I think our Hispanic community also works a lot, and we've had to, and all of our caregivers do, really think about what is the best time for them. And it might be late at night, or not too late, but till 8 o'clock at night, or it might be a lunchtime or a morning. and you have to offer, it's hard when people have multiple jobs to make their income.
The more you're meeting, the more they are.
Absolutely. And we even had a caregiver, just to speak to who we are, ask us to join a doctor's appointment for language, right? And how can you deny that when they're asking? And I can't imagine putting myself in the shoes of living in a country where I can't access all the language just yet. I have a desire to, and I walk into a room and I can't completely understand. I'm sure there's some functional literacy there at this point.
Sure.
But it has to be a really intimidating situation.
Well, it has to be, because, I mean, America is the exact opposite of the rest of the world when it comes to that. I mean, I can go to any country in the world and I can look at somebody and demand that they speak English because I don't speak their language.
Right.
And that's somewhat accepted.
I know. It's terrible.
I mean, we were horrible people.
Yes.
To be honest, it's funny. But you talked about, the teachers and what they put in and getting to know and developing those relationships. And that is so important, because that's something that's going to stick with you for life. And
for life.
And if there's any like kindergarten kids that are listening to this, teachers will make an important part of your life. And if you don't believe it, okay, I'm 60 years old and I know Mrs. Akeley in third grade.
Yeah.
I can rattle off 3 teachers in my high school that made an impression, for me, that I, at the top of my mind.
Absolutely.
Haven't seen them in, decades.
Yeah.
But teachers are important.
They matter. Yeah.
They really do. And certainly Seeds for Success is an extension on that. Now, as executive director, okay, I mean, you're steering this ship.
Yeah.
Where do you see, I mean, you've obviously seen some pretty tremendous growth in your tenure here since 2021.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to put you here for an extra 12
Oh,
years.
no, that's fine.
But where do you see, what are you looking for the future in maybe 5, 10, 15 years?
So I would love to have, a permanent space in our community, which is a challenge. It's a small community, historic buildings, that's always a challenge, and a place where kids can walk in the door and come visit us every day. We have an office here, which we're very lucky to have. And as we grow staff and we grow kids and we reach more children, we have a community hub where they could be. I think additionally, providing quality multiple days a week, right? We want to be a place where kids come. Right now it's 1 day a week, because what we're doing well, we're doing deep, and it takes a lot of planning. We do as much planning as schools do for every single session. And we would love to be able, with transportation coordination and all that, to serve kids in the next 3 years at least 2 days a week. Every single one have an opportunity. They can come at least 2 days a week, because we know that the mentoring and tutoring is really impactful when it's multiple days a week. And then that builds back to what you were just saying about teachers, right? At the end of the day, our kids may not remember what they learned, but they will remember how they feel. And so the more we are a part of their village on a multiple day a week process, they will feel even more connection to us and open up to us and help us better understand what they need access to make sure they have the opportunities they want.
Okay. And since you are pretty centric to Annapolis.
Yes, we are.
I mean, so you're not, I don't want to say you're not worried about, but I mean, Glen Burnie is not in your wheelhouse. And
Not right now. I do work with the county and the communities of hope, and I sit in the Annapolis Community of Hope, and I know there's needs throughout our county, and I think it's a tough balance, because there's so many children right here, and there's so many children in our county. So I don't have on my purview that we will expand in the county, but should we ever have the opportunity, 5, 10 years from now, I can't say that's off the table, because there is so much need in pockets. I know South County has a great need as well. Lothian and down in the southern neighborhoods where I live have need as well.
Well, that leads me into my one question that I wanted to ask, but here in Annapolis, is the need much greater than your capacity that you've got right now?
No, I think we're mapping that. And I think that's where we are also thinking about what grants are strategic, what funding do we need, so that we can continue to do what we do well, right? Could we enroll more kids? Sure. But you dilute the quality of what you offer when staff is stressed. And so we didn't increase enrollment by 63% again this year, right? We did that the first time, and now we are doing what we do for kids well and thinking strategically about how do we add more resources so that we could add more capacity to add more children and more days.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, as we wrap up, and I want to get into the most important part of this is how can we as a community help Seeds for Success? I mean, I know the obvious answer is that we can go to seeds4success.org and click on that link on the front page that says "Throw me money."
Right.
That's the easy, no-brainer type of a thing if you possibly can do that. But obviously, we can attend the events that are coming up here. But volunteer.
Absolutely. We that is another talk about capacity, right? If we do partner every child starting in pre-K one-on-one. And so we can only enroll as many kids as we have volunteers. Oftentimes our volunteers will take 2 kids, but we want that ratio to be pretty small so that a child's needs are individually met. If we have individual reading goals for you because we know you need to read and improve your reading, that's hard to do when you're in a group necessarily for just an hour or 2. So we need mentors all day, every day. We need mentors.
Do your mentors and your volunteers, I know we talk about the relationships that the students have and the enrollees and the members have with their mentors. Do the mentors actually then develop the personal relationships with the families of the students as well? Or
over time they might. I think we've pulled back on that a little bit more just to make sure that we are monitoring safety for our kids and what families expect, because we also want to, the family is at the wheel, right? It's their child. And so we want to make sure that if we start to open up that relationship, that it's what the family is asking for. When they sign up, they're signing up for our after school programs, right? And ultimately our kids and mentors do get invested in each other. And the best relationships do end up in people maybe communicating outside of our programs. And we want to be respectful of a volunteer may not sign up to extend themselves in that way. Or they might have access to something that the family's like, oh, I would love to learn more about that. So how do we, it's a case-by-case basis. Okay. We do ask volunteers to commit once they're paired with a child for a year before we do open up that relationship a little bit more at this point, just so we get to know it's a right fit.
I've got to imagine for a parent of a child that's enrolled in the programs here at Seeds for Success, it's got to be pretty cool when a kid comes home and is excited, says, oh my God, I was working with Miss Jen yesterday and this is what, earlier today, and this is what I learned.
Yes.
And I know, I'm long gone from the times with my kids. Just when my kids came home from school and they happen to have, maybe it was a field trip, maybe it was a slideshow or, whatever it may have been, when they were excited about what they did.
Yes.
And, again, I go back to where we live into this generational poverty type of a thing, that a lot of children just aren't told of the opportunities that they can. So when they see that success coming through, what an ego boost, what a huge lift up that is for a kid.
And that's why I think it's really important. You and I were talking about social emotional skills earlier today. And at the end of our sessions, we really have kids reflect on their goals and not just what was a challenge in the growth they made, but what can you do now? Now that you've been here, what can you do? Let's make sure you understand that you are successful at something.
You need to rephrase that and change it to what can't you do?
Oh, that's a great way to think about it. Right.
There's really nothing.
Right.
You sit there and you look at some of this, and unfortunately, in a lower income housing, and you've got the low hanging fruit, and there's some drug use and there's some violence and everything else, which is fine. And you know what? That's no different in that community than it is in my community and your community.
It's a level of visibility, really, is sometimes what it is.
Yes. And you've got that inherent bias and everything else that jumps into there. But, to be able to turn around and realize that everybody has the exact same potential. I have the same one as you have as me, as, whoever's walking by the window right here. And it's just a matter of putting your mind to it, being the best that you can be, taking advantage of the opportunities such as Seeds for Success that can help you out there, because nobody makes it alone. And God, now that's starting to sound like some politician that said nobody.
Right.
But it's true. We all do need somebody
absolutely
to help us, and whether that's a parent, whether that's a sibling, or an outside entity to be able to do it.
your family does it and other people. Sometimes I know myself with a supportive network, I actually need a new person to say you did well at that, because my family might say it to me and I'm like, but you're my mom or you're my dad.
Right. You're paid to do that.
Right. You're paid to do that. But just additional people in your life who also echo things you might hear at home. Right. And just, there are all times where we were going to go into a meeting or we were going to take on assignment or do a presentation or do something for the first time, maybe even a podcast like today, and needed a word of encouragement. And that also is mentorship. And that comes from a variety of people in the village. And so we're just happy to be a child-facing organization. I think a whole staff is really grateful to work with kids, because it is such a eye-opening and in a privileged place to be, to get to see those successes in kids. And that's why I've worked with kids for over 20 years, because they are just my favorite people.
You've got
favorite people.
Your passion certainly shows through.
Well, thank you.
Go to seedsforsuccess.org, and then it's the number 4 in the middle of that. Next time you're down here near Sammy's Pizza, stop by and give a knock on the door and see the great work that they're doing here. Or maybe if you're at Adams, stop by next door on the other side of it. It depends. Or
yes,
Eastport
please come in. Yes.
And find out how you can support this great organization, whether it be coming here to volunteer, whether it be coming to donate some money or to attend some of their events. I think if you attend the events that go on there, you're going to get a different insight as to what the organization does. And it's really, if you've got the time to be able to afford it, and I realize that people go through different aspects of life. I mean, they've got the whole career track, and I got to get ahead. And once you've got, a couple of hours a week to spare, a couple hours a week is going to pay you back tenfold and what you've got.
Thank you.
Jen Paastrone, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for everything that you're doing here. And for the short time that you've been here, I think it's incredible growth. And I think everybody is to look to see where this came from. Just a bunch of old ladies in Eastport. We're tired of it. Wanted to get the girls to read. And look where we are now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this opportunity. It's really great to spread our message, and we are among a village of great other organizations. So it's a really lovely place to call home and work, and a great community to work with.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.